So I flew out to Minnesota last Tuesday and then drove back in a truck.
Okay.
We did it in 2 days.
It's a long day, it's just long days.
Long drive, yeah. The end, it just takes.
Hi, Dana, are you Sheridan?
Yes.
But-
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lena's not to make it.
Not at all.
And
First
then
time.
we just
That's
missed
what
the
we
tornado.
Oh. She
1 hours.
hired you to give that news?
That news, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. You said house guest.
She has house guests and 5 or 6 children currently at her house. So I think she feels she can't leave the nest.
Hey, Brian, can you hear us okay? Is the video coming through all right?
Yeah, I can hear you, Stephen.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. We're gonna probably not start on time, waiting for a few people still. Would anyone like a spin drift? Please help yourself, yes.
Oh, over there, okay, great. I'll grab one in a second.
These are the things that were given out for us. Yeah, I got a digital copy. Oh, you did? Yeah, but I didn't have paper.
Yeah, but the idea is that you get business, you know, so you might want to take notes. I'm Judy.
Sheridan, nice to meet you.
Orange line, orange, okay, you got it.
Very much.
Sheridan, I'm.
Steve, Sheridan, nice to meet you.
Okay, great. Steve Ryan is very popular.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll go with this really simple.
Sheridan, I said that.
Sheridan, nice to meet you.
Too.
Um.
Yes, yes.
We're
We're trying, yeah, we're trying.
It's required.
Yeah, it's a process thing. So, we want to become, as quickly as possible, a cohesive group. Okay, good.
Yeah,
That is the discussion for the first item on the agenda, but.
so are you doing like process exercises?
Chinese spies.
Okay. It's what? Don't trust God. Don't
They
trust
don't
God.
role play.
Okay.
You're like, lock us all in rooms and see if we can get out. Nope.
Okay, no escaping.
Nope.
Yep. Aloha. It's out.
Hi.
So we're waiting on Glenn.
Hey. Okay.
It's in.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello. Have who we know we're gonna have.
Yeah, well, I think so.
We can get started.
Great. Okay, so we've been recording, so at your
There
leisure.
we go. So we have Brian Lumb on Zoom and everyone else here. Welcome. Thank you for making the time. What I thought we'd do, just real quick, rather than go around, but if people that weren't here last time could just do a quick introduction. And then if people would say their names when you first speak, then that'll, by the time we're done, we'll at least have names to faces. So, Sharon.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sheridan Zimmer. I live on 22 Turnpike. So right in town, I guess. And we've been here for about 2 years, but we've lived in Vermont for several years and then in Connecticut before that. I have 2 kids in school and doing all the sports. So if I'm not here, it's because I'm on a game.
Ann Sargent, I moved here for the first time in 1972. Went to school in Hanover, came back in '89, raised 3 children here, all went to Marion Cross School. I live on Campbell Flat Road, and I'm here as part of the business community. But he
Yep.
asked for representatives, so that's the role. And I was on, I heard, I watched, I'm sorry I missed the first meeting, I watched the recording. And somebody asked a question about previous, efforts like this, and, there was a thing back when my kids were in Marion Cross School called Profiles 1 and Profiles 2. Which were similar, but I have to say I was more impressed with the first,
Profile.
Wow,
the process.
we're gonna do better than that.
And
Great.
Yes.
These are paper
Yes,
copies.
thank
of
you.
what we got at the last meeting.
Yes.
Great.
these profiles, were they done under the, were they done on behalf of the planning commission, or was it?
Very similar, very similar charge. To look
Okay.
across to advise the planning commission, who in turn would talk to the select board, but to sort of look at like all the same issues that are.
Interesting, yeah, I don't have record of that.
What year was that?
Roughly. I would say, let's see, maybe the late eighties, early nineties. I think we're probably, no, I would say definitely early nineties and then closer to the end of the nineties, 2000, because I
Okay,
moved here in '89, and it was several years after I'd been here.
all right, 90s decade. Okay, interesting.
Sure.
I will see if I can, find reference to that.
Brian? I don't know what there, but Brian?
Yeah, hi, Ron. I'm Brian Loeb. I live, I guess, on the edge of town, one of the few houses that pays taxes to the fire district but doesn't get water. I am the town's representative to the Regional Planning Commission, where I'm also on the executive committee. In my professional life, I work for a bank, doing outreach to nonprofits, especially on housing and economic development. I have 3 kids in the school. Happy to be here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent, happy to have you.
All right, so welcome everybody. That's helpful. Like I said, we can do quick names as we speak. So the first item on the agenda, I wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper in the process for this group, as we really get going on our activities. And it really comes down to, if you remember what I said at the beginning, last meeting, where this project is in 3 phases. And this first phase is really about this group doing a body of work, becoming a coherent group, becoming knowledgeable, planning the work, getting an RFP for the consultant. So it's really us congealing in a good way and getting some work done. And then the next phase out in, say, the fall is the public engagement phase, where we get out there and we do a survey and do charrettes and do focus groups and really pull in everybody we can think of. And then the third phase is really writing it all up. And so if we look at what process to use for us, a working process that supports that. And we were just, because one of the questions that came up was public participation in these meetings. And so what I would propose for phase 1, again, with the idea that this is a steering committee getting some work done phase. So the idea would be, for each agenda item, we would first have the steering committee chewing on it, doing the work, talking about it. And then we'll make it known that at the close of each agenda item, we would open it up for any public comment on that topic and then move to the next one. So that we can have the kind of the focus within the group with still a little openness. And obviously, when we get to phase 2, then the balance shifts, but for now. And then for those public comments, we have a sort of set of guidelines that the select board uses and the planning commission uses, which is we have a 3-minute sort of rough time limit for those comments, just to let everybody have a chance to speak. So that's kind of a proposal for public participation in these meetings. And clearly, anybody in the public at any time, they can come talk to any of us. And that's the whole point to having stakeholders from different groups. You know, you're gonna talk to somebody at a baseball game, you're gonna talk to somebody at the NBC meeting, you know. And so we want to be very open to that. We just want to make the best use of our meeting times as a way to get our work done. And obviously, yeah, go ahead.
What's your name?
Young Lusbrook, sorry. So I'm the chair of the planning commission. So the acting as facilitator to this group, as this group is really a creature of the planning commission in a sense. And then the other option, just to make clear to everybody, is people can submit written comments anytime they want. Us, members of the public, you know, send it to Stephen, send it to the, planning commission heading this activity. So there are plenty of ways to get input. And then just one more note, and so that's kind of public participation. For us doing the work, I think, and being able to make the most of our meeting times, it's please attend, or let us know you can attend, watch the recording if you can't, do the homework and be ready, because really, even if we have meetings every 2 weeks, an hour and a half every 2 weeks, we need to hit the ground running each time. And again, we can talk outside meetings with this many people, 3 or 4 people on the street, isn't a quorum, you don't have to worry about anything. You can talk, you can always come in and talk to Stephen. He's always free, there's very little else to do, you just talk. So any thoughts, any other ideas relative to how we might work together? Okay. Great. So then the two topics really for tonight's agenda. The second one being I think the meat of the meeting, which is looking at maps and really talking about what is the boundary of this village that we're going to be working with. The first one is, though, to get a better sense and make sure everybody has a good sense of what do we mean when we say a master plan, a village master plan. What are the pieces of that? What did people think of when they read and looked at these examples and said, oh, that's great, but I don't understand what that is, or are we gonna do that? So, and just to kick that off, I'd say Springfield is a very good example. It's more than we're gonna do. They have a bigger town, they had more money, and they took longer. So it's a good kind of grab bag. We can look and say, oh, we're gonna really focus on those 3 pieces, or I really like that, but we don't have to worry about that.
Could you quantify that a little bit? I'm surprised Springfield is a bit more population and more money.
It's close to, it's almost 4,000, I think.
And it's not really started to scale over town that I pointed John's trying to make. They had, it was just a bigger, more better financed project.
Yeah,
The extra envelope for this project is around $28,000. That was probably closer to 100.
Okay.
So it's a different level of
That's important.
attention. Yeah,
yeah,
it is important. That's why.
yeah, we should not, but we should.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we got this group together to put a lot of work in upfront, because we don't have a lot of money to spend on it. I mean,
It's a good thing to talk through, in the sense that we're gonna write an RFP for a consultant. And so I think it's good to understand what 20 grand or 25 grand
Will buy.
buys you from a consultant. Because everything else, either we're doing, he's doing, she's doing, or we're getting other town residents excited around to do.
And I also think it's important to note that the budget work plan's already been set. So, that's the second most important part of the grant application. So we really have the sort of work plan set out already. We just need to populate it with content, the questions we want to have answered.
Can you say more about that? Because.
Yeah, part of the application, you have to lay out the hours that you're allotting to certain tasks.
So for what that the consultant is gonna do?
The consultant is gonna do. Yeah,
Okay, so how would you, let me ask it a different way then. If you look at Springfield's example.
yeah,
And you look at what that work plan for the consultant that we can afford
yeah.
is gonna do.
Mhm.
What else, how much can we do?
Well, I think we can do a lot in so the main thrust of the work plan are, I think it's around 64 hours for 2 charrettes. So basically all day public presentations on a number of different topics in an effort to sort of gather information from the public. Then there's a portion of the remaining budget, I think about 40% for authoring a draft of a village master plan based on what we gleaned from the public process. I think the major difference between us and Springfield, one, they're doing streetscaping, which requires a lot of sort of technical design work. So that's a big element that we don't have.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sure they put more money in for sort of understanding the existing conditions. And I think that's gonna be important for us when we talk about limiting the size of the project area, because the process of understanding what exists already and what's been considered already, it can be pretty extensive.
And a lot of time is typically spent on these grants when the big consultant comes in of doing what we're going to do tonight, which is what's the boundary, because the boundary of the area will really help you to focus your thinking because of the in terms of what you want to happen within that relatively small area. So we're saving time and money by doing this sort of in a very economic way by building all the input from all of you to determine where that area will be. So that the other study, which we Stephen and Jan and I found, is this one that you also have on Virgins, and that one cost about 28,000, which I think is. No, this one, pretty gentle.
I remember that. I was sort of around when it was happening. That was.
No, this one
Okay.
wasn't. No, the whole
She's right.
project. And remember, it was an enormous project all the way down. It's a multi-million-dollar
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
But this was a tiny piece of it.
Okay.
The center one is very little,
Yeah,
about 15. So yeah, so you don't get a lot for your money. Really. So the
we're
more
trying to
we can-
optimize
the more
what
we
we
can
get
do,
for
the
it.
better.
Right, so and that's what I think is important for us to understand, and we won't necessarily do it tonight, but as we go through this work plan.
Yeah.
And then we say, okay, here are the 10 things we'd like to do, here are the 4 that the consultant's gonna do, and we can afford to have them do. How do we get the other 6 done? And that may come down to, oh, we can only get those 4 done. So we change the bounds of, not necessarily the geographic bounds, but the bounds of the project.
Yeah,
Because it is perfectly it's understood that one of the parts of the document we produce will be this whole section at the end that says, here are some great ideas of next things to do.
Yeah.
And so we will find ourselves with more good ideas than we can do. And some of them are gonna drop down to that, suggestion list at the end. But so that's just so we can do that in a way. I just don't want us to start like this. And then
Yeah.
take multiple meetings before we get realistic. And can get traction on what we really can do.
I agree. And the other aspect, is that I did sort of come up with 6 topical elements that we would look at. And that's growth, housing, infrastructure, community building, historic preservation, and resilience. And so, you know, we want to come up with questions that identify problems that we see that we can have a consultant interpret and then come up with mechanisms to draw that, you know, ask those questions to the public through these charrettes. So those are kind of the boundaries, right? I mean, it's going to be limited public engagement around a limited set of elements. We can change those elements. Those are just, but we can't change the work plan. We can't now decide that we're not going to have charrettes.
Well, and then, yeah, that doesn't hold us too much. That's a good idea and it's a good way of basically maximizing input.
Yes, exactly. Brian, I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, I would just say like so much of the sample documents from other towns that were provided are just fluff. They're really just like duplicative of what's in their town plans. And like for Springfield, for example, like the actual contributions of the authors don't start for 60 pages. And even then, like, while it seems like they're project concepts, like actually it doesn't give you that much of a head start. Other than saying like somebody should do this. And if that's I know it seems like a lot of detail in that one, the Springfield one. I can't imagine it being that helpful, actually. I'd rather end up with like 3 pages of challenges from the charrettes and like 2 very specific action itemed project ideas. I don't want a 90-page copy of the town plan.
Yeah,
That's a good point, Brian.
that's a great point.
Verbiage, especially in the days of AI, verbiage is easy to come by. We want to have that distilled down to really reflect what the town wants. And that was one thing also that I think is important is you can write verbiage on what everyone agrees on. Or the easy stuff, kind of the motherhood and apple pie stuff. And that's easy, and what we should try for is a little bit more challenge. To say, okay, if you're gonna talk about housing and infrastructure in town, don't just write up something that says you're gonna preserve historic Norwich while providing a mix of housing while keeping it safe for our children. I mean, you have to say, what are we gonna build where, or we're not going to, or we're gonna, you know, let's understand what the contentious or important issues are for the village and drive a conversation around those and end up with making some choices. So that we're saying not this, yes, this, and, you know, really take some things head on rather than just writing up, you know, stuff that sounds good, but doesn't really do any harm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the planner's, you know, #1 goal, but it's not, you know, how can we create something that contains action?
So I would follow up on Brian's comment is to say, I agree, you need specific action items, but then you need the section that says, here's the specific action item, here's the implementation, and here's who's going to do it. And so you identify which group in town is responsible for it, whether it's a select board, Historic Preservation Society, the Conservation Commission, and say, and then when are they going to do it? Over the next 2 to 3 years, next 5 years, so it has that kind of detailed specificity that you can then show that you've accomplished something to yourself, so it isn't just another report that sits on the shelf. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and which our current town plan does, I would say,
Your town plan.
yeah.
It does it, but if you go down the list and say, which of these actually happened?
Right.
The
Was that-
brain is not that great.
Right.
Good.
No, it's terrible. Great,
Right.
it's terrible.
It does get all the way to the specifics and say, we should do this. And then when you say, did we? It's, you know, it's not.
Oh, we'll have it.
So, I mean, what is the lever to get
That's.
to four? I mean, like, this doesn't have the force of law. You can't say, it's like, this is use, I think like it's important to think like quickly at least about how does this get used, right? So we write this and we say, here are action plans. Here's what we think we should do. We've talked to the town, okay, we got our 3 things. Let's say it's, I agree with, Brad, like, yeah, 3 things, 2 pages, great. So then how do you force those things to happen, right? Like, is it just people writing on the listserv, hey, we had this plan and you're not doing it?
It's a mix of approaches, including,
Right?
including your knowledge of Title 24 and the town planning piece, because it does have a regulatory component.
Okay,
So once you've drafted your master plan, as you're also working on your town plan, you will fold this master plan into your new town plan. That then gets voted on. And nothing in all of your land use regulations, your zoning bylaws shall, by law, meet the goals, implementation, the policies, all the things that you put in your master plan. So that's where it becomes
Okay.
enforceable.
So you're under the OB and that's.
no, that's really helpful, right?
So
So
that's-
that we should be
Yeah.
thinking about as always, like, okay,
Yeah.
if this is,
Yeah.
if this is going to bind the planning commission
It does.
when it,
Mhm.
right, then let's write it in a way that
Right.
makes it easy to follow and clear and,
Clear.
and.
Yeah.
Right.
And you should have it in
Yeah.
every meeting, you should have which typically doesn't happen, so this is Jean bullying people. So you should really have your town plan there and any other documents associated with this, as well as your regulatory document,
Yeah,
and sort of say,
And-
so when someone says, I want to have, sheep in the middle of town, like this bloke here.
I was gonna say.
Yes, he does that. Then it was, how does this fit? Regulatory, and is it included? Is it okay with the town plan? And so you can either kill it or support it by utilizing these documents. So you want them so that they could be read by the average 8th grader and understood.
Yeah.
Not just by an attorney or a planner.
Well, and that's, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Alec.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's.
I failed.
I think you said if this is going to bind, it's not, our document isn't binding, but what's accepted of our document becomes binding. Once it's.
Right, that's right. We're not making.
Eventually
Right.
would make it into the.
Yeah, so the sequence is important, but yes, this group will, recommend, but basically hand the planning commission a draft document. The planning commission will be involved all along, but, that will go to them. That group will edit and submit to the select board. When the select board approves that, it becomes official. And then the point is, we will very much roll this into the town plan that is being redone by 2028. So 2027 is town plan where we take the village. Thank you, steering committee, for giving us that piece. Now we embed it in the rural conservation areas and the traffic from out, all the other elements. And one thing we're really pushing in the planning commission, and this is to just this issue of leverage, is, for example, we asked the Affordable Housing Subcommittee to start work on the housing chapter for the town plan. And we specifically said, look at the town plan and the zoning regs at the same time. So that you say, oh, we want, multifamily downtown. How would you put it in zoning ordinance? How has it been done in other places that has worked? Because it's the zoning and subdivision regs and any other ordinances or whatever, that's left page.
Yeah.
Right, well, cause at the DRB, that's what we follow when we approve
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
That's a
It
topic
must
very
be
close
in
to
your
my-
town plan
Right.
as well,
You know, there is currently a big disconnect between, I
right?
mean, there's some loose connections, but in general, there's a big disconnect between
Yeah,
our
the
land use regulations and our town plan, and has been
Right.
for probably 24 years. So
Then we can resolve all these.
No,
tonight.
No, but at the very end,
after we adopt.
No, but this is helpful to understand how
Yeah.
this is gonna be
Right.
used, cause if
Yeah.
you know how it's gonna get used, then you write it.
Exactly accordingly.
yes, we wanna see it, there's provide the clarity. And make decisions rather than just writing out agreements. And then there's link it to the vehicle, to the thing that can really hold people's feet to the fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe let's go to the boundaries more.
Yeah,
But we're kind of doing both at the same time. We're doing geographic boundaries and then we're doing village master plan project boundaries.
Yeah.
As we look at this. And so I know we have maps.
yeah, she's got a presentation.
And so Gene can pop those up. I just wanted to put it in context. When we talked about this for the grant, we had just finished with the regional commission doing their future land use map, where we needed to choose the boundaries of the village center and village area being official new terms of future land use types. And you'll see that in one of the maps. We chose the grant application to include the bigger one, the village area. And that's how we got to such a big thing. But I think what we want to look at is where's the village center? And then do we have satellites, focal areas, other places that aren't in the center, but we connect to them? And that's tonight's conversation.
All right, yeah, so my task, that Steve and I have been working on, so I'm a consultant from out of town, you know, they always know more than everybody else, right? It's not true, though. So I'm looking at your town from the outside, and I'm trying not to give you a biased, presentation, although all things are biased, but let's just move, can we just move along here? So what I'm trying to do here is sort of give us a sense of who we are. And by the end of today's meeting, we're going to move into Steve actually drawing the boundaries as you're talking them through. But I want you to start thinking about the town and how it might have grown up and look, because last meeting it was very clear, everybody wants to do things related and protect the history of the town, the historic buildings, great interest in making sure that the school is part of the focus of what we do here. There was concern expressed for soil erosion and from the hills. So I'm trying to pick on all the themes that came up during the last meeting and try to think through, okay, where do we go and begin to draw boundaries? This is what Governor Wentworth thought it should look like back in, because he's just from New Hampshire. What did he have? So he drew all these nice squares on here for the lots. These are the original lots of the town, all squared up with no reference to the landscape whatsoever. And we would then have all the little tiny lots on the Connecticut River, like the St. Lawrence River up in Canada where everyone's coming in. And they didn't even have a center to the town. There's no town center that was set up. And the center's evolved. We go to the next one. And I've given you copies of these maps, if you want to take notes of them. So here's one of the first recordings of where we started to have a town center. By 1856, this is probably Walling's map. This was shown in Sarah's talk last week, 2 weeks ago. And so when we go through this, I want you to try to think of possible goals. Do we want to highlight the historic center? That was clearly stated at the last meeting. And if like all these buildings here, many of which are on the historic register, do we want to preserve the buildings? Do we want a whole, or do you want to also have a vibrant core with businesses, places to meet and eat? Do you want all of those or just some of those, or do you want more of those? And I want you honestly to be thinking about this and scribbling notes on your maps and things as you go through
Did
it.
you say you gave us maps?
And there's a whole set. of-
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone else have them in front of them. Yeah, okay, so we'll move on.
Yeah. And so then the next important map that you can look at and think about is the Beers. Now, let's see about the Beers map you need from out of town. Sure.
Thank you.
What's interesting about this one is there were many centers, none of them were big, on the Beers map, and this is in 1869. There were scattered centers all over the town because it's a hilly town. And so there was nothing really clear about that, quite interesting, really. But this is a hand-drawn sketch from 1869 that shows how it had expanded slightly from Walling's 10 years earlier. But this is the core, and it's now beginning to evolve down here, even though it's not even vaguely in the center of the town. Does everybody out in the boondocks know it's there? With 20 school districts. Okay. So then if you go to I don't love these maps, that's fun, that's not nice, look like but anyway, fucking map. This is a weird map to me. Is it
Well,
still?
just to be clear, as you saw, we may not love them. These are currently the law of the land. It's in our town plan.
This is currently, it's quite interesting. I want you to start thinking to yourself as you drive around the town, does it really seem like a valid land use as it was shown it was current land use in 2020? And what are all the undeveloped areas? I've never seen a map anywhere in Vermont in a town plan that lists areas as being undeveloped. Kind of odd. Is it just gravel?
If you go to the next, those same areas are called farms.
Right, so the farms are in this sort of greenish-ish color. Then you've got institutional and government. It's a way to show your land use.
Yeah, I think they're two different ones, and I think there's farm and environmental. Because you can clearly see that.
Then you bring it down to the town itself, into the town center. So here the town center then begins to show up. Surrounded by residential, but it's in the brown section in the middle, and it's called commercial and industrial. It's not called historical. Are you okay with it being considered commercial and industrial? Do you feel comfortable with that? Like, or is it accurate? When I come into the town, it doesn't look commercial or industrial, but then it doesn't almost look like a town center to a person from the outside coming in.
Doesn't almost, or does? Well, and I would just compare the brown areas to each other.
Right.
And clearly out by Fogs and King Arthur doesn't look the same
Doesn't look
as
like-
Main Street. No.
All right, so what about historic? Do we, really, the word historic isn't appearing in here, it wasn't considered important when this was drawn up back in 2020. Or not as important as it seems to be listening to you all talking now. Yeah,
Are we supposed to be listening or commenting right now?
oh,
So, one of the reasons I believe that we feel the way we do about entering the town is because of the, entrance and exit ramps to exit 13 on 91 and to the flow to the bridge. And, much work has been done, to try to fix that over the years, but the federal government owns it. And they've been quite unkind about the addition of trees and so forth. In fact, they were planted and we had to take them out. So, the difficulty is, I don't know how they demarcate it. You can see the white and area in the highway.
Yeah.
I don't know where it becomes town property on that map. Or you get
I
which
think
point.
it looks like the white is federal.
Well, it's federal or state. Those white areas represent right of ways.
Right.
Trans right of ways.
it does, it definitely impacts the
This, in fact, this V-Trans right of way extends all the way through here. So that is a substantial
Yeah.
footprint within the main portion of town.
Yep.
Here.
But V-Trans isn't as bad as Pads.
Oh, no.
That's
No,
what
but I mean,
trees out.
yeah, I mean, the federal highway system is, you
Yeah.
can't do anything. V-Trans. It could be more negotiable.
So for example, and this is a good
But it's not.
thing to understand about our work. Trying to be an umbrella, again, we're trying to get as much out of this as we can. So a group of townspeople were interested in bike ped safety, they applied for a grant. So there is now a grant for scoping bike ped connection between the Hartford line and Main Street, looking at the Route 5 corridor. So we will just pull that into this conversation.
And we have a map on that in a minute
Yeah.
with trails in, because I'm glad you brought that point up.
Okay.
But I think, so, yeah, the undeveloped is interesting, because I can see, I mean, Warner Meadow and the Reeser property is marked undeveloped, that's conserved land.
That's this,
And then, there's a lot of it, the one where the solar panels just went in, that
Yeah.
everybody was arguing about next to the town,
Yeah,
forest there, that says undeveloped. It's,
so this will be a map you'll change anyway in your town plan when you get to it, but you'll still. You're gonna wanna work out what kind of words you want to use for this area and how far it's going to extend. We've got a lot more to get through, that's it. So then, these are areas that the next one shows, some little patch of national forest. Norwich property, conserved land, and some of it is in, current use, the stripy stuff is in current use. That changes, so you want to check that. So do you want all these parcels which are shown on here, that's certainly part of your town center. One of the questions would be, do you want these parcels protected in perpetuity, in which case, how will that fit into your town plan? In other words, when the developers come in and say, okay, we want to, or you plan it, your big group of planning experts for the charrette says, well, we could fit 500 affordable houses here. Oh, well, no, we've decided we want these protected. So you're going to be giving this kind of information in the local study or not. I know, I'm just throwing out.
I know,
things
it's
to
just
get
like the
wound
fear
up.
mongering is like part of the problem. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I'm just like, I will just say, like, as a general, I'm on the planning commission, so I fight quite often, but the fear mongering of like 500, like, that's the thing that leads to Norwich making zero affordable houses.
yeah,
And so like, I just like encourage the whole group, at least, I'm not saying we have to, like, we're gonna land in one place, but for the sake of it, like, the fear mongering, like. The only way to do solar is to take down every tree in Norwich and to put solar, and the only way to put one portable unit is to put 500 units in.
Yeah.
Wait, are we supposed to be afraid of 500 affordable units?
No.
Not.
no,
So,
I was excited about that.
Yeah, I'll just say that, but in the town at large, those are the things that.
Okay, yeah.
so that's what you're gonna get prepared to do or not do, say, are we gonna set aside any areas in our town? As we pass this information on to the big group of planners that are gonna finalize the master plan, are there anything you want to protect in forever, in perpetuity, other areas like this would be reasonable, and we can consider this for residential, it makes sense, so.
But I think it's good to have the word protect in there will be things that we want to protect. And whether it's certain historic buildings or certain
Right.
properties or, I do think just specifically that these that are labeled, kind of knowing what I know about those are already not the current use ones, but the yellow ones are permanently
I
protected.
believe
They're
the other ones are.
Yeah,
They are.
but there may be others
gotcha, Brian.
where, that are added. Mill Fry is not permanently protected, that the grade is to the right there, do you want to? But it's sort of a trade-off, and we got on this, talking about solar siting. You need to do the trade-off. You can't just protect everything, and you can't just say everything is a go. You wanna push and pull so that you can go.
And we don't control private property. Brian,
Yeah, that's the point. There's no, this, I don't know, I find this conversation not that helpful actually, because the town has already done a scoping study of town-owned land. And actually, there's no town-owned land that's not a cemetery, that doesn't have a deed restriction in the village center that we can say this should happen or this shouldn't happen. Like all these parcels here that are shaded, the town does not have any control over. And so I just like, I'm struggling to see why we would have this study focus on those areas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're focusing on it just to look at it. It's not that we think we're gonna pick out sites for housing or sites to protect tonight. I think the goal for tonight, to my mind, is to draw a boundary with a basis in understanding, so that we can, it's an intelligent boundary.
So the next map is also from your town plan, and I would ask that you keep this one in mind as you go through it. And we'll compare this map of 2020 in your town plan to the Act 181 maps that are at the very end, and we get to them just a minute. And then compare, your 1869 map of the Deer Atlas, where actually there's scattered development throughout here, you just can't see it in the so-called resource protection. Your present town plan has resource protection for, I don't know, what, 80% of your whole town, sort of interesting. And then you've got residential, village, and yeah, that's some mixed use.
I mean, just to be clear, as you said, this is, those in the town plan are clearly labeled future land use. And you have no leverage on all those things labeled resource protection to stop anything from happening there until something real change, okay, the density goes with the distance from Tracy Hall. It's the things that are in the zoning regs that have any say about what those grading areas have and have not the restriction.
So then we narrowing it down, so looking here at the town center, there's a white line inside this which says designated village center. That, as I read in your town plan, was never fully approved.
I think it was, I think we,
Yes.
but the whole program is.
It's changed, lapsed.
Yeah, from a state point of view, that went away being important, but it
Exactly.
was.
They sort of incorporated into 181, but not really. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, that might help you think through how you want to have your boundaries moving along. This is what the present zoning map looks like. It's a broad brush, kind of a way of doing a town center. It mostly village residential, 1, 2. And the center is considered business. Even though, as I said at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion on the need for it to be historic. As much as or more than, I don't know, but
It's
that's
technically
commercial, industrial
village
just
business.
here. Yeah, well, village, but village doesn't tell us it's historic, so I'm just thinking of a word.
What is the difference between 1 and 2? I should know.
It's a historic thing that was driven to, as I recall, there was a specific project possibility down Church Street that drove slightly different definitions with more units possible that never really came to fruition.
Yeah, it's a slightly different purpose statement it allows for medium density, residential, but.
It's left over from
the
something
technical
previous,
differences are
not
almost
built.
zero. And I mean, if, that's as close as you can get to spot zoning.
Yes.
I live in one of those like 7 properties, so.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and there's like literally like 7 properties.
Yeah, so if you wanna put up some affordable units, we could probably consider that, but.
You could probably get 2 more units on that
Like 1.5
lot
acre lot,
than one in the pig area or something like that.
Yeah, so all of these are sort of district maps.
Yeah, so now as you think of your town center, there are other constraints that will control the direction, the depth, the intensity of any kind of development sorts of things you might think about for your town, certainly, because, the water and floodplain comes right through the middle of town. Right through the middle, so when you put the boundaries around your town, you've got to be able to take that into consideration, especially given the fact that we're not really sure what the weather's going to do from one week to the next. So thinking of flood resilience as you draw your boundaries and you decide, what will be within it, you want to try to make sure you included the most recent flood hazard map in your master plan. And that's all in the process of changing right now at the state.
I don't-
We've got.
I don't know if we'll be able to, Windsor County and the watersheds, the
Right,
suppliers.
I'm in A for Addison County, so we get it first.
Yeah, we're-
It's true.
Yeah, because if this is 08,
Right.
then I know they
This
just
is
did.
all-
there's
Yeah.
a whole new geography
Yeah.
of the floodplain.
Right,
Yeah.
That is bubbling through USGS and FEMA right now.
Yeah.
And we're just a little bit, we might
I
be a
mean,
little
if you picture what's needed, you sort of say, oh, what if 4 inches of rain fell in 12 hours over that whole area? What are the soils? What's the topography? Where's the water gonna go? And draw that on a map. It's not simple.
how much impermeable surface do you really want to have? I mean, that's an important question. So you want to be sure you're passing on the most recent information to your next set of planners, and that you think about buffers that are required now around, streams as well as larger rivers, 50-foot and 100-foot buffers. I mean, this is presently in your zoning ordinances, according to your website. So just
It
think,
is.
Mhm.
Yeah,
and that's one of Stephen's elements that he came up with for his, in your plan, your grant proposal. Then the other thing that's a hot topic, is original protection, and, if you go back to the Beers Atlas of 1869, you see all those, we're all shown on there. That's one of the reasons why the town ends up, being the way that it is. I like those, green farms. So are they, I don't know, so just a couple of them down near the village,
Yeah,
Are they-
I don't even,
and I don't know whether they're really
I don't
important
think
to you or
that
not.
count. in this
Okay, we don't
conversation.
think that, okay.
Just probably.
This map, which is terribly clear on here, that shows protection of scenic resources, is that a critical thing as you do the boundaries and decide whether they may?
I don't really think so.
Okay,
I mean, I think the valuable scenic resources are higher up.
Oh, higher elevation.
Along Union
Okay.
Village, along the roads.
and then we've got.
We have,
trails, yeah.
I think the way we have talked about scenic inventory and scenic resources is the view of the Van Orman farm coming down the road. It's that sort of thing.
yeah,
I think for the village plan process, it's the historic houses, what makes it.
right.
That's what you mean by scenic, but
Right,
that's not what this map is talking about, so we just change it to historic or village aesthetic or however you wanna call it.
okay, that makes sense to me too, listening to you.
And are wetlands included in the?
Yes, good timing.
Good time, that's one, we're getting to the wetland, you don't have to use
Yes.
wetlands, but you've got a lot of nice little blobs, and the new law has also just recently changed on wetland designation as well, so you need to look at the updated wetlands.
And repairing and stuff.
And the other thing that's just recently changed in Vermont law is, habitat, the forest habitat. There's more information on that. This is a source you can go to for information if you want to, when you do more with your homework, the Agency of Natural Resources website. If you click on the town, you can get into all kinds of detail and layers that these little red blobs are endangered species, for example. Again, you don't have a lot. Been settled for so long that it's not really going to impact your village areas. But there may be some habitat, forest habitat areas which you may or may not be able to do anything with.
Yeah,
So you'd want to look at that and the wetlands as was commented as well. But most of your wetlands are sort of small blob areas rather than huge flood areas. I'm not sure about flood hazard, that's different.
But I do think to get back to what we were talking about at the beginning. To some degree, we're looking for things we don't have to deal with.
Yes, that's right.
We're looking for focus.
Yep.
So scenic long vistas and
Endangered species.
endangered species, for the village master plan
Right.
process.
Probably
Now,
not.
we can work those, we can make, what town plan is gonna have to deal with them
Right,
next year,
exactly.
but not us.
So you're begin to focus down what you want in that town center, okay?
Yep.
Now we get to the Act 181 acts, these are not law. But you're, in terms of being your town plan, these are from Act 181, which only impacts Act 250 developments, and the town didn't ever vote on them. So they're useful things for you to have, and they're kind of being superimposed on all of us towns, these biases that come through. But nonetheless, they're here, all the towns have them, and it's way the town state is trying to push us to concentrate so we can get housing where it's felt that it needs to be, so.
Where's the crisscrossing stuff?
It's that area.
Yeah, it matches the flow.
And I'll just say like on the one, I mean, that the goal is if you have to increase housing in Vermont, which
Yeah.
studies show, by going through the process of 181, you're limiting housing to specific core areas that they define as villages or cities or towns that have different designations but the goal is to avoid the worst environmental impact of everybody chopping up forest everywhere and putting a 2-acre house on every mountaintop all over the place with long driveways.
Right.
So the goal is to put them in Norwich, Hartford, Ferrisburg, like all these
Yeah.
core areas. And that was the point of it.
And so that's one of the most important things we think about for your, how are you going to accommodate that in your town center?
Mhm.
Okay.
If it's possible. Yeah.
If it's-
Well, yeah, and I think it's a very interesting comment from the planning commission meeting last week, where we were just starting to percolate these ideas, and we were talking about this boundary. And Vince, a member of the planning commission, said, well, we can make the boundary for what it is now, but then we might find that when we say we want to do something, like have X number of units of new housing, it won't fit in the boundary we just set. We need to bubble the boundary this way or expand it this way to then accommodate the new need that we're saying we want.
Yeah, and that conversation around zoning districts and how they need to, we need to inform them to represent the land use pattern.
Because you've opted into.
Yeah, we opted in,
For by these definitions, village center and village area.
You've opted in.
Yeah,
Well,
correct.
you only opted into 1B though, 1A, well,
One, we can't
One
do
of the
one.
ones.
that's what I thought,
That's the infrastructure.
infrastructure, okay, so just 1B,
One B.
okay.
Yeah.
And essentially that's all of the pink area,
Right.
where there's, sorry. Next
Yeah,
slide.
focus is in,
So-
Brian. has his hand.
So here's your 1B area, this is the village.
No, we did the whole thing.
It's.
No, I'm just talking about the center of it, that's the one.
Yeah, that's village
And
center.
then, here's the line that goes all the way around the village area, according to Act 181.
Yeah, but
Which we
we,
opted into.
we asked for both.
Yes, no, I understand, yeah. So part of this might be a tight historic core with lesser historic core around it, and then are these areas which you want to include?
That's the
And
question.
that's the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
That's the question that you're going to want to come up with today, or you want to have some areas down here, look, and make sure you understand that the water and flood hazard area flowing right through the middle of here.
Mhm.
And remember the hills, you've got, in fact, let's bring up the next one.
Yeah, the next one was the one.
So-
that had
sorry,
problems
just-
with it. Brian?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
go
so
ahead,
sorry.
Bob.
I have to run to do baseball pickup. I just want to make one quick plug. Although I worked very hard on the previous map that was shown, and I'm working on potential changes to zoning districts. I feel no obligation to align this project's map with either of those efforts. In fact, I'd rather see something much, much, much tighter. There are plenty of projects that a consultant could identify for only the village center or an even smaller area. Granted, granted, you may be able to like tie physical improvements beyond those boundaries to what you would like that area to look like, right? Like things at the
Yes.
different entrance points to town or infrastructure connections to other towns that would be for the benefit of that very tight area. But I have no need at all to like look beyond that area in charrettes or to ask for project concepts for development beyond the very narrow village center. It's just like asking for things that will never get done. Well, like why not just choose like the narrowest project focus you could on this in the hopes you'll get something good? Sorry, I have to run. I'm so sorry.
No.
Thank you
All
all.
right, thank you, Frank.
Can I ask for a little clarification?
Sure.
So if most of the land is in private hands, and we're talking about a sort of a plan, then we're basically talking about changing zoning. Right? That's because you can't have, let's say, an 8-unit, 3-story building behind the firehouse right now. Right?
Correct.
But if you want to put an 8-story, 3-story building behind the firehouse, then we may make that suggestion, which will trickle down into the zoning of the village being different than it is, right? That's
Correct,
the
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Okay,
that's,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's not, we can't make that 6-unit, 3-story building happen because of, basically, we just have to say it could happen if somebody will sell the land and if a developer will come in. The town isn't purchasing land to build on.
No,
They're
no,
just
no.
opening up a gateway for economic forces to do their job.
A regulatory context.
Yes.
Yes.
But these include some infrastructure planning too, right?
True, absolutely.
If you want it, the answer is yes, you do.
Yeah,
Yes, you'll be wanting to ask.
so it's both, right? I mean, like the zoning piece is one, but we
Well,
can.
because to the point of like making a 12-unit space in a condensed area, like without sewer in
Right.
the core village area,
Yeah.
we're pretty constrained by septic.
Yeah.
And so like if you decided you wanted to do,
Just approve septic under a parking lot.
Right, and, but yeah, so there are,
Creative, there's lots of creative.
there's different jurisdictions. I mean, within the town's right of way, we can conceive of infrastructure projects. We can, sewer, water, we have a water district already, which I think is an important piece to look at. But that's, yeah, I
I mean,
mean, but
to
the
some-
housing and other use,
Right.
that's, the end goal is zoning districts that support it.
To some extent, people may just keep moving to the town and they wanna live in their, their 1/4-acre lot downtown.
Yep.
In their neighborhood, and they don't want any different, and those houses just keep turning over in that regard.
Right.
We can't control that.
No,
That's right.
no, yeah, and we have to recognize if those lines exist. I mean, if you can make a sort of natural boundary between that common use and other common uses. And I think you can here.
and I was just, like, most of the zone, like, I think a lot of like current literature and academic stuff out there now shows that most of the zoning ordinances put in place have been put in place in the last like 30 to 40 years to prevent market forces from doing just that. It's still up to market forces or individual landowners, it's up to do whatever they're gonna decide to do. We just aren't, we've decided as a town 30 years ago to not allow that to happen, to put 2-acre minimums and such on.
And that was in response to 10-acre minimums.
Yes.
Right.
So it was progress.
And we were told, we said, we're in Harrisburg has no water and sewer. And so we were told, well, yeah, we still want to increase the density so we can have those 500 units on this 30-acre parcel. And so, well, but we don't have water and sewer. And they said, that's fine. Change the town plan, change your ordinances. This is the response from the planners, the consultants that were hired by the state, actually, in this case. And that's for how, but then how does it work? Well, the developers get to pay for
Yeah.
it. So it would be market forces that would take place.
Do you have anyone with
No.
Amy on? Okay.
Now, the last one of my piece before we move into what Steve's gonna magically manipulate is this map. There was a lot of talk at that first meeting and people, schools are important, trails are important. We've already talked a little bit about trails. These red lines on here, those are all trails in your town. A lot of them around the center. the white lines are the roads, and what Steve has drawn on here is he's drawn this black line, which is around the, Act 181 village area. It's a huge area, as you can see that we're talking now, we want to narrow it in order to say, what do you want to have for the boundaries of your village master plan? Do you want a tiger core? Do you want to have outer pieces? Or how is it that you want to handle it? So.
Well, no, I just wanted to make one point because I think there's a difference in when we say trail versus which one is used for recreation. I go and I walk around with the dog, and which one is used to get from point A to point B. So because we talked about is Hog Pine in the village. And it comes down to, is there a way to get from there to town that's viable for your average kid on a scooter or on foot, and if the answer is no, then this proximity across that topography means that this is not the same as Oak Street.
Yeah.
And so there's a big difference between these trails, for example, or even, this one cutting across, and ones that might actually allow you, this goes around Huntley. That's not a transit corridor.
Right.
And I think that it's an important distinction.
Yeah.
There's another trail map that I didn't use that shows these more permanent trails. But that was a very old map and Steve's thought it was too out of date.
Well, and I don't, I asked, because I asked the kids, so I was asking them, what are the secret trails that you go back and forth, behind here and from Jones Circle down to Warner Meadow, and can you get from here to there?
Yeah. We have to.
Because those are functional.
Yeah.
Actual functional travel corridors.
Crossing private land.
That's crossing private land, but that's
Yes.
what I said to Abe, I was like,
Yeah.
you should tell us, because it was like, no, we don't want to tell you. And I said, but if you don't tell us, you'll get it shut down 5 years from now, because the landowner will decide to shut it down.
But there are secret hiding spots in there. You can't.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the planning commission had
There
the,
might even be a fort from
Yeah,
19.
there you go.
It could
Okay.
be.
So I'm just gonna start here. Keeping in mind what Brian said, I think it's very important that we limit this. He's right. We've identified, US Route 5 as, a subject of study in the next couple of years. We've done studies on Beaver Meadow. The really important problem to solve for US Route 5 is access for bicycle and pedestrians. So we're on that. So I'm gonna zoom right in, okay? I'm gonna go right down here.
Stephen, can I just
Yes.
ask about you said that there's some work being done on bicycle pedestrian access down Drive. Is that there's a subcommittee
There
working
is
on that?
there is
Or
a
working.
grant application in place, and Christian is one of the.
Similar.
Christian and Miller Nuttall, the
Okay.
two on the planning commission that can talk to this in detail, but basically there's a grant application to get money to do a scoping study of bike ped from the Hartford town line to the grade.
inclusive of the rec fields, the proposed new farmer's market, and dealing with the fact that there is no way to cross
Yeah.
from the current existing sidewalk to there, because everyone sees college kids at farmer's market day, playing leapfrog or ticket across the strip there. But we just put in the grants 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that would just be to map out what it would cost to then get the grant for federal money to or save money to do work.
Mhm.
So
It
it's
will
like,
be an identical outcome to this project, which was done in 2021. So we have a scoping study for Beaver Meadow pedestrian access. So we have pieces in place.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna zoom.
Yeah, interestingly, the Beaver Meadow one it is used for kids to get to school. It's also used a lot for simple walking traffic doing the loop. From the.
Yeah.
I don't
From the farmer's
I just moved my.
So now, by the way, the purplish stuff that you saw on those maps, that was slope. I forgot to mention, that shows slope. So slope is kind of an interesting thing. Some of you
So, yeah, that's the one, that's why I was pointing at the Hawk Pine to
Yeah,
Cliff
yeah,
Street.
right,
Because, it's a barrier.
The majority of these buildings that we're looking at here are, commercial in nature. It's Tracy Hall, through, Carpenter and Maine, all of this around Beaver Meadow. So this is like this is the absolute core commercial portion of the village.
Is it also historical?
It is absolutely historic and the historical center. The historical center actually extends a bit further.
But if we, just as an exercise, I mean, if we just imagined, and I bet we would have pretty good agreement. If we imagined walking out each road. And we kind of raise our hand and say, okay, I'm walking out Beaver Meadow Road, I turn left after the inn, and I'm walking out that road.
Yeah.
You hit Fairview Cemetery, and most people are gonna be like, we'll go out to Huntley. And
To that point,
I think we'd get pretty good agreement on those boundaries.
let's look at the extent of our sidewalk infrastructure right now. So if you zoom out, and these are the roads that are covered by sidewalk. So all the way down to Lewiston. You can see there's two colors. This is another issue, select board. We have shared ownership. The orange is owned by the water district. The green is owned by the town, and never the two shall meet.
Right.
That's a
Who fixes them, who
Yeah.
makes new
Yeah.
It
ones.
is so crazy.
So we have that extent. The next extent that I want to show you guys is the extent of the fire district. And it's a little bit further. I'm just gonna see, I don't want to zoom in too much. This stuff up here is only on the fire district because
There's the well up
the
there.
well is up here. So, I wouldn't ever
They're
consider,
on the line from the well.
yeah, which is a little bit further up, but, I don't think we really need to consider that. So this is a sort of, two, an infrastructure boundary and a regulatory boundary. Yeah, I don't think we should really consider a project area much bigger than what the fire district covers. So it's a sort of basic minimum.
Mhm.
And remind me where that is on that.
That's the
That's
yellow,
all yellow,
right?
all yellow?
So, yeah, and this is conserved, so you're.
Right.
I mean, if we look at the questions that came up in the planning commission discussion about the village area, the black.
Yeah,
The things that were contentious that we could talk about here, one was Hawk Pine, yes or no. One is McKenna, yes or no, and one was Hobson, yes or no. Those were, it was like, well, yeah, maybe not, and, so we can ask this group the same question, if I just said, is Hawk Pine part of the village center?
Well, then you'd have to think about, if we're driving changes to zoning, you're opening up an area that's very sloped
Yes.
to more density, which may cause other environmental issues that we don't have the wherewithal here to make that call. I mean, that might be a question for the consultant, if we're interested in investigating whether Hawk Pine is included, we would really need to know what would that mean? What would happen to
Right.
the
Yeah,
Yeah.
so our resident professional engineer on the planning commission said the soils in Hawk Pine won't support anything else. So it's somewhat of a moot point from the point of view of development.
yeah,
Potential.
and in my sort of outsider, view, my experience, you drive through Hawk Pine, you're absolutely in a different neighborhood.
Well, the way that the drive goes,
It's absolutely a different character of neighborhood than the village, and if I had driven up there during our discussions, I probably would have advocated
to not have it.
to not have it.
Well, but to flip it around for a minute, we're not saying that the boundary we're creating, inside of that boundary, we're gonna put lots more houses. I mean, that's not, no, and if we can't put more houses, then we shouldn't put it in the I mean,
Yeah,
that's not the only criteria, we're talking about both the feel, what really is the village,
yeah,
and what is this activity of the village master plan gonna deal with?
yeah,
Yeah, but won't you be driving by, let's say we include Hot Pines. And then you're sort of driving that, well, the village needs to be walkable. And we need to have sidewalks. And we need to have more plowing. I mean, we could be driving something, a plan that is just ultimately unsustainable. That the town population, that you can't get any more houses in Hot Pines, you can't support anymore, but now all of a sudden they get a whole different level of service. Maybe imposed on them they don't even want because of that.
yeah. So, you know, I think, you know, we wanna advance a project area that's, you know, going to be able to address the challenges for the village in the most acceptable way. And then the sort of distinction between Hawkvine and the village area that we're looking at here is pretty large to me.
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna go.
just a second, Christian.
Yeah, I have no direct opinion on or interest in Hawk Mine, just given the fact that like if they can't support more and it is kind of separate. I mean, kids walk there every day to and from school, but like if whether or not it's different area, it's kind of moot if nothing can be changed, which is fine. I guess my only pushback, and I know we're headed down, what Brian said is just like, if we go too narrow, I just like worry, like what's the, like, they will become a historic preservation project where once again, like elitist Norwich is only focusing on keeping the core area from like unchanged. And like, so I just worry, like if you focus too close and like, I mean, that is one tack this group could go is we want to protect this 2 square acre lots to be pristine and perfect. I just think like in the grand scheme of the state, that's like not something I would be advocating for and not a look that Norwich needs to bring out. And so like by expanding like in areas that potentially could support more or are looking at supporting more, there's like talk about affordable housing, private development on Route 5 South, there's the new farmers market development. The farmers market is going to be leaving a plot that has good soils and is on mass transit line. Like if I was gonna advocate for any one area extension or a satellite area, whether it's truly walkable or not, that would be like my true focus area, Route 5 South.
So would you include that in the village center, in the master plan?
I would only be like an example you gave, this is
Right.
District 3, I don't know which one is this, Harrisburg, they have like a District 3, a proposed new area that says like a mixed use residential,
That's right.
new District East, and they're called like, to me, that could be Route 5 South.
Yeah.
And that is part of the core area, I mean, it's a mile, it's like not far, like you're definitely not way out, it's not environmentally protected right now. You drive down Route 5 South and I don't think a lot of people are like snapping pictures saying like, this is quaint Vermont. Like,
There is a beautiful word.
yeah, further,
I
yeah,
mean, if you go, like, sorry, when we all went around and said like, what do we think value about the village center in the first, last meeting? I mean, I go back to sort of think about what I said, which is that it's a place where people gather and people come, like the whole town comes together. And I don't live in town, and I've actually never been to Hawk Pine, but I've definitely been to Route 5 South. Like that's a place where people, like it's not, like if the point of a village center is, this is a place where everyone in the town who lives everywhere sometimes goes for things.
Yeah.
School, coffee,
fogs.
farmers market, right, you know, just
Yeah.
like.
But you might be talking about, is your name, I'm sorry.
Christian.
You might be talking about zoning as opposed to village. Because if you're talking about like congregating around like the post office, the school, the town hall, it's, you know, it's risky to split a small town with like 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And not everybody comes to town every day. So if you put too much, that space through zoning changes will develop. Right, so if we could make, a satellite recommendation.
But you have to have it in your master plan if you're going to have it in your
Right,
zoning
but we're
regulations.
doing a piece of that whole master plan. So this is the village piece. So as part of our discussion, presumably there'll be another committee. We could pass on that piece of information,
yeah.
like, this is a zoning issue. If we can now allow Route 5 South to become more densely.
But only if it's in the master plan and the town plan.
Because that area
Right,
is under our.
but to her point, I mean, I
Yeah.
agree that right now, we're asking this group how to bound our project. And we've heard a fair number of things to say, keep it compact, both for the project and it's the village. I hear you when you say, okay, if you have the village core, and then you put a lot of emphasis on a satellite, and that's where everything's happening for the next 10 years, then do you end up with enough of it? It's not a satellite. Who's the center and who's
Context, we
the
felt
satellite?
like crazy to not have the post office go to Route 5 South.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was the best thing we could have done.
Yeah.
Right, back in the 90s.
Yeah, I absolutely.
But I think, but that, to limit this group to something realistic, I think it's valid, you know, if we look at, say, you look at McKenna Road and you look at Hawk Pine and you say, all right, we're gonna take what is kind of common sense, people would agree, I think the fire district is as good a boundary as any, the village center. And we're going to include the conversation about a Route 5 South, Layton Center, or whatever you wanna call it. I would think a wonderful exercise, just to think about, is let's have the town come up with a better name for it. If it's gonna be a place, it's gonna be a thing, what do you call it? Calling it Route 5 South sounds like this weird leftover thing that's, or the Hartford town line. So just those two, the core of the village that is really quite compact and recognizable. And we are gonna talk about. Yeah,
So what are you
satellite.
gonna name
I'm just selecting some parcels to suggest a project, I think.
it? Okay.
That's, I mean,
That's the yellow bit.
oh, that's just the right of way.
Road.
Can you take us around Hobson Road to Route 5? Because that's a
Sure.
natural, there's a whole housing,
Yeah, there's houses, there's,
Yeah.
quite a big development.
it's like
there.
walk up Elm Street, take a left
Like a lot.
on.
Yeah.
It's all beautiful, like, single family homes,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
huge lots, mostly, with a conservation center.
Well,
They're
in
in-
Norwich Meadows.
Yeah, with a conserved center.
Well, I
And
think
this
that-
could be important for, you know, our transit planning as well, because
Yeah,
this portion of,
The brown is Betty Booth's old land?
yes, this brown. This brown is the conserved, so that's the house that took over Betty Booth's.
Okay.
And that's conserved, and then this is conserved, all of it.
Where is that, when you say Betty Boo, where,
Betty Booth-
I don't live in Norwich, so.
Where the Yens just moved to.
Yeah.
Yeah, just on the other side of, you go
They
over
built that
the Elm
giant house
Street
just
Bridge,
over there.
that house.
Yes, okay, great,
Next to Stetson's.
got it,
Next to.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
so.
But I
Yeah.
think to Stephen's
Spot
point,
on.
if we're including if we're including the satellite of, to be named, farmer's market area, then anything that connects the two areas we're talking about is gonna get attention.
Where's your?
So then it'd be Dresden Fields, King Arthur Flower.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's important at this point to point out that
It's a free-
all done a lot prior.
Just before,
Yeah.
Charlie Armstrong. Yeah.
I just want to point out that, in the past 25 years, we've done a lot of planning on Route 5 South already. So I mean, if we're gonna include that, by necessity, we're gonna have to make sure that we're not duplicating this.
No, and I guess, just and
Yeah.
to the point, like, I guess I just, whether, and I don't know, I wasn't involved, like, no one asked me about the farmer's market, if they should move there, but it seems like that's like a hub of activity going on right now, like, there's a private developer talking about affordable housing units with the,
Yeah.
connected to
Right.
Hartford and the Unitarian Church, like, that kind of feels like it's out the bag, and like, if we don't do anything, we're like some nexus of activity is gonna go there regardless. And so like, is this an opportunity, like, it's only a mile, like, is this an opportunity to connect
Hmm.
somehow? Cause the reality is like, you can't do the farmer's market in downtown Norwich currently. Like, there is no way to build a 10,000.
Well, and
square
if
foot.
we were to say, oh, let's include Lewiston. And let's include all the way out past the town dump there, you know, then we would clearly say, oh my God, we're totally dissipating ourselves. We're not gonna be able to succeed in this. And it doesn't make sense
Yeah,
for the town where we are now and where we are probably gonna go in 10 years in terms of where the attention is gonna be.
yeah, I mean, maybe we can solve this problem by, sort of looking at gateways, right? So we have the village area here, and then we have following the current infrastructure, we have a sort of gateway to Lewiston. We
The
follow.
highway underpass?
What's that?
The gateway is the highway.
Well,
Yes, the high.
We're gonna need to spruce that up a little bit.
I have an Eagle Scout.
It's falling,
Yeah.
falling off.
Yeah, okay, all right, maybe a little off.
Sorry, no, it's just.
Fine. Okay, so maybe we just follow the existing infrastructure. To the ends of the sidewalks.
Which brings us where? On the north, like at the end of the
Specific
top?
thing.
No, the sidewalks are the green and the orange, so to the edge of Hobson. And
The other way.
Yeah.
This is Huntley.
Huntley,
sorry.
Perfect. Yeah,
And then, so. Yeah, but I mean. Is that part of the village? That's Huntley?
I mean, I walk there from my house, but like, again, that's the same thing as talked about, like, that's, a lot of people don't, I mean, you're a 15-minute walk from the library, like,
I mean, beyond sort of.
feel like there's-
I walk here, but like.
With my Sheridan.
I just think that's like a heavily used pathway that like, if I think about kids, like they are just ripping up and down that.
I was
side.
asking-
In my mind,
Yeah,
that needs to feel.
I was asking neighbors, just
Yeah.
like, the same, like, what do you think about downtown after our first meeting? And multiple people were like, well, someone's gonna get killed by a car pulling out of Dan and Witt's. With a kid biking to Huntley. That was like a repeated,
Yeah,
like getting from school to Huntley Meadow was like a big,
It's the major
big.
issue.
and that's an addressable challenge.
Yeah.
Right, so I absolutely take that on board. I don't know if we can live draw this right now. I mean, I don't
But
love
I
to,
think what
but
I'm hearing, because I do wanna try and hold us to our discipline, and the idea is, if we try to end around 8, we'll be having fun. If we try to go to 8:30 or 9, we'll stop having fun. And that's a good rule for the group. But, well,
Then we can beat them.
right, but I think I was trying to get to some points of agreement, which I think are to be relatively compact with what we're calling the village center. And then in some way to include the Fox Farmers Market area.
Could we suggest that there's sort of, a village center and then a village perimeter? And then there's the rural part of the town, right? So, I mean, clearly, all the way through Hobson, all the way up Elm Street and through Hobson is, I mean, when I first moved here, I lived on the top of Elm Street on Hickory Ridge. I rode my bike to and from school every day. That was horrible, but, had to do it. And, so that was definitely walkable. I mean, I don't know if kids do it now, but I was certainly told to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are like, those are the two paths.
So I think that's true of hops, and, hop pine, and these, I mean, if you just, as you said, John, take a road and walk out it, like if you go up Elm Street and you go left and right on Hobson, you come to either Huntley or the farmer's market, right? That's what happens. And that seems to be that extra village. If you go in the other direction, you encompass, Hawk Pine and a little bit of that lower area that, I don't know what you're calling it, but going down towards, G.R. Porter and the intersection there.
Right.
And the thing is, the geography sort of constrains you. I mean, some towns it's easy, you know, it's just a big square, there's a town in the middle, the town green, that's it, it's pretty easy.
Right.
But here it's not, it's
Right.
the topography and the rivers and everything. They, just like historically, right from the beginning, they've not made it easy for you to have a clear town center.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
It seems like the town centers, from what you've been presenting, it means something a little more concise than maybe the
Hmm.
village two district or whatever you wanna call it.
right.
And then, I know I'm here as a business district, and this is the village, but I wanna put a plug in that I actually live in Norwich because I want to live on a farm and a dirt road, and I don't want all those services. I don't need a sewer, I don't want any of it in my area, right? I'm not advocating for
Right.
the village extending out into the rural area, and I think there's a fair number of people who are making that choice.
Yeah.
And, and, you know, clearly, if you move to Hawk Pine, you probably don't want hundred and twenty-five acres.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
And of course,
you
the
want a
new,
different.
and we've got the new law now that says if you're allowed to have one, single family home, you are required to allow a second, accessory unit that can be as big as the original house.
Oh,
on the
and
same
the
property.
first one can be a duplex.
And the first one can be a duplex.
So you're gonna have 3 units on any lot.
Now, I mean, that's state law, so that's already in place.
So can we agree, cause I do think it's, call it fire district, call it sidewalks. You get to roughly the same place where you're going out to just the other side of Huntley. You're,
Is this the black line we're looking at?
no, not the black line, the inside from the black line. So this is the other side of Huntley, the Moore Lane Bridge.
Yeah.
Right there, and then Koch Road, but not Hawk Pine.
yeah,
Cliff Street, Hazen and so forth, and then how far down Church is a valid question. But again, if you walk down Church,
Mhm.
you're gonna start getting scared
Mhm.
a little before you hit the highway underpass.
So it's Willingham, I mean, that's where we live and walk, it's Willingham, it's like the end of the
Yeah.
whole residential area.
And then what would do, unless anybody's talking about developing Mill Fry nature area, it doesn't really matter whether we're here or there.
you know, it's not just house, right? I mean,
Right.
Like, how do you preserve
Yeah.
these things that exist, these natural resources that we have?
Right, so fine, we're at this line, we're not gonna go over to McKenna,
Right.
that does not make sense to what we just have been talking about. And so then we can stop that, I mean, I think, so this is Warner Meadow, this is Elm, you know, you can hold the village core to there as long as you know you're gonna have a whole conversation about this. And because as soon as you have that conversation, you're gonna talk about Hudson and you're gonna talk about Route 5.
Yeah.
Connecting in.
Yeah,
So that's pretty much the pink. With this satellite study here.
What is the state right of way, on the Route 5 north and south?
it's,
Like a number of feet?
it varies. The V-Trans right of ways are their own thing. They're
Yeah,
all mapped and,
because it's gonna be at least really big on Route 5 south. and
It is.
that's
It's
sort
at
of
least
5.
49 feet long.
I mean, the good news is where it feels the most pinched, where you turn off the light right in front of Southburst,
Mhm.
Old Southburst. It's wide,
Yeah,
so you could have bike lanes.
it's wide
And,
edge.
you know, a sidewalk, bike lane, and squish the cars down.
We'll see. We'll see. No, I'm serious. This section of road is going to be incredibly complicated to figure out. Because you all say it's wide, but it's not. It's just sort of normal.
Well, it drops,
Drops
down, yeah.
Considerably. This is the right way here, the sort of the cross shape. Do you see that, Ann?
Mhm.
And it becomes like normal sort of 3 rods from here, but it's wide. And then, you know, all of this.
Can you look at it going north out of town? Cause that shore is much more narrow, to your point.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, like through to Willingham, it gets
We
incredibly
take a
narrow.
recommendation to petition the state to,
Believe it or not, that conversation's been had.
Well, there's different people in the state every so often.
No, I know. I know.
Always turn, yeah.
So I'm gonna, this is pretty hard to see, so I'm just gonna select it. Hang on. So that's the right of way.
But that's not the current shoulder, that's just the right of way.
That's the right of way.
Because the current shoulder is what you feel when you're walking or driving, or
Right.
going by somebody on a bike and it feels
Right.
like there's a float on either side.
So the difference is that, say, on the northern side, where what really matters, practically speaking, is where that drop off starts, because it's gonna be prohibitively expensive to widen that. But if it's a shoulder and you've got room, you can just sort of bulldoze and put a retaining wall, and that's a different possibility.
Yeah, so anywhere in the red area, requires negotiation with the state. And I can see what you're talking about. It must feel really narrow through there, because that's steep.
Mhm.
On the south side. It's where it's this, the drop.
Or it's four-wheel drive, right?
So it's
On
drop,
top, actually, yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's,
And
yeah,
all this purple is all your contours, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's
It's
the,
dark
those are
purple.
slopes over.
It's uphill to the north and
Yeah.
downhill to the south.
and I think it'd be easier to actually go on the north hills, because like on the other side, there's just a 30-foot drop in a lot of places.
Yeah.
With a French,
But I mean,
French farm road.
This is the bottom of French Farm.
So,
This is a planning challenge, right? I mean, the fact that there's V-Trans right of way here and
yeah,
there.
that's one of the elements we're gonna have to deal with, but
Yeah,
can we as a group agree, I think the exercise, if we said, yeah, from a mapping point of view, that feels right, what we just went through, then I think the next piece would be to link that to pieces of the plan. Like, okay, what are the important things we want to address? Where might you put housing in there? How do you get around? The key things are traffic and housing and historic and, so that we then have the elements of what we think we can handle over the next 8 to 9 months.
So the conversation's been had about joining the Hartford Sewer District for a long time, and they have resoundingly disagreed with that idea over the years, right?
It goes like this, and it's currently on a more positive road.
right now.
So you're saying they're more receptive to
Hartford is or Norwich is? Both.
it?
Hartford, I mean, they are somewhat related, but
Well, they made it very easy for the farmers market and, the other potential development to make private connections to existing infrastructure. And, it was a bit warm reception for both those groups.
Which they would not do for King Arthur.
Different
at
times.
the time.
I
Right,
mean,
Yeah.
the board appears to be quite progressive.
but King Arthur has solved their own problem, right?
Right.
For a large quantity of people, right? So I wonder, how do they solve that problem? Like, maybe that's another more affordable solution. And do we wanna look at the land that does that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's,
Well, I think what'll come up as we're looking at that satellite, at the.
Do you mean including a piece of land that could act as a large
Right, in
site
other
for the
words,
town?
they built their own giant, in other words, basically the village is only going to get a small number of growth, right? It's not gonna be a huge growth. So all this energy to tie in expensively, presumably to another city to be their ticket to expansion to their system or whatever. Maybe we can solve that problem or have the option of solving that problem ourselves, the way King Arthur did, because I don't think we're getting anything nearly as impactful as King Arthur in the village.
And if so, we would want to include, think about including that in our area.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, no,
Going out.
no,
Yeah.
I'm just making, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And those
I would
offset
take it.
systems are excellent. I mean,
Yeah.
they're used all over the country now where there's not adequate soils to literally have, on-site systems for sewage.
I don't think that's,
I don't even think they're alternative. I mean, they just have enough land.
they had enough,
Out
they
in
just did a
front.
really big system, but,
Yeah.
you know.
We have good soils.
I mean, Twin Farms has their whole own
But you can do it
system for, you know, what's more like 40 people.
Running into issues now, as we found out, but.
Yeah, Starlink, yeah, they need to fix the.
No, Twin Farms
Twin
are.
Farms. Oh,
Yeah,
I mean-
yeah, different.
So I think this is probably a good time to,
A lot, yeah, a lot of.
We're losing the crowd, Stephen. What do you?
no, it's done. We're 8 minutes past fun.
But so I guess I would say, you know what we're thinking about. Literally go walk the streets and say, well, take the map and say it ends here, here. And really, we're looking to confirm the agreement that we've been dancing around here.
Yeah.
And then we will take that and put it in the plan. Say, all right, within that area. It's transit, it's historic, it's, you know, it's housing, it's infrastructure.
Steve, would it be possible for you to invent a map?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And.
And I'll share it with
say,
everybody.
you know, and send it out, because remember, we're not constrained by the public, what, you know, where it is.
Well, put it on the website. I mean, I think to people's, you know, we are a subcommittee, we have a website. So he can put a map on the website and
Right.
it becomes a public document
What I-
that we have no
But send
concern
it to
with.
us.
What I'd like to do, is I'll share with you guys my interpretation of our discussion tonight, and you guys can review it, and let's see if we can get consensus,
Right,
and then that's it, that'll be the project area.
yeah.
And I don't wanna
Just to be clear, from an open meeting law point of view, or actually in this case, the public records law. When this group, which is technically a group of the planning commission, as long as whenever we see reference material, that reference material is also available to the public at the same time. That's all that's required.
And by
So as soon as he pops it,
public, they can see it.
yeah, and as soon as he pops it on the website, that's done.
Yeah.
So as long as whenever we get a group email with the map, it's on the website, we're playing by the rules.
I want to make one more pitch about this village size I was thinking about. It's not just about density and housing and development, it's also about preserved lands and other things. So when you're thinking about like where that line is, maybe it can be a little bigger because an awful lot of it is already designated that way, and we would maybe like to keep it that way.
Right, yeah, whether it's Warner Meadow, Milk Dry, Huntley, there are various pieces
Yeah.
that,
You want your master plan to have those green spaces in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes a
Yeah,
good
well,
master plan.
I'll be conscious of that when I
Right.
draw the boundary.
Right.
But what I don't wanna do is spend a lot of time on this topic at our next meeting. So I think we need to push on. So I'll share it with everybody. If you have feedback, I am totally open to it. I will adjust accordingly, and, you know, we can just take that off.
great. So we are on, according to last time, for July seventh is the next meeting. Seven,
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Yes.
I believe,
Same place, same time.
same place, same time, there you go.
Maybe I'll have something more sophisticated than a lunch tray for that. It works. It works,
Works really well.
yeah.
Great job with the maps.
Oh,
It's really helpful.
And Kate, I mean, for those of us
Oh, great.
who like to, if we could figure out for the GIS.
It's really fun thing.
To work on it, and then order the ANR one, and you can start pulling layers. If it's an overlay that is that hard to.
Oh, yeah, it's, yeah.
Or I'll just know where it is, and that's fine too.
All right.